During the peak days of the super typhoon, people on Sampan people in the area of Duke Gyasur in Bui Xa Commune, Duke Tho District, Ha Tin Province discovered the body of a man about 40 years old. The identity of the deceased was identified as Mr. Nguyen Kin Bin, born in 1975, residing in Quarter 5, Duke Tho Town, Duke Tho District, Ha Tin Province. Mr. Bin was an employee of BACHA Tin Irrigation 1 Member Limited Liability Company. At that time Mr. Bin died while on duty during a storm, so most people believe that the cause of death was his footfall. Fell into the river. He couldn't stand the water in the superstorm. Mr. Bin's funeral was held in mourning by the entire family and relatives without any suspicion. Everyone thought this was a rare accident. After some time after Mr. Bin's death, the case seemed to have ended, but when reading the entire report of the police of Duke Tho District in the summary meeting after the super typhoon, the functional forces detect unusual signs. We asked the question, did Mr. Bin die abnormally? Thus, Mr. Bin's death did not conform to the objective rules of a river worker, an irrigation worker to strengthen the foundation. Investigation conducted. Searching around the area where Mr. Nguyen Kin Bin's body was discovered, here discovered a black shovel with blade 1 used Nokia phone. That is why the investigators and detectives became more enthusiastic. Many of the initial clues were questioned, and there was a basis for more determination to investigate. However, one problem was Mr. Nguyen Kin Bin has been buried for more than 1 month, and if it is decided to reinvestigate the case, the body must be autopsied to conduct an autopsy. This is a very difficult task for the investigating agency because of the religious customs of the Vietnamese people. Very limited on trespassing the graves of the deceased, especially those who have just been buried, and Mr. Bin's family does not want to do this. There is no other way, but the experienced investigators at the Office of the Investigative Police Agency must persevere in persuading Mr. Bin's family to support and cooperate, because with the professional eyes of the investigators, the Mr. Bin's death was not simply a work accident. On December 26, Ha Tin Province's Police Investigation Agency conducted an exhumation of the body and decided to call on the Criminal Science Institute of the Ministry of Public Security to determine the cause of death of Mr. Nguyen Kin Bin. At the forensic examination No 15C54 dated January 6 of the Institute of Criminal Science of the Ministry of Public Security concluded that the cause of death of Mr. Nguyen Kin Bin was suffocation along with many head injuries. Thus the death of Mr. Bin showed signs of being murdered, not simply drowned. The Investigation Police Agency and Duke Tho District Police and a number of other functional units took place. Many questionable questions were raised, many hypothetical situations about Mr. Nguyen Kin Bin's death were taken into account. Why Mr. Bin died, and if Mr. Bin was killed, who was the killer, what was the motive for killing Mr. Bin, when Mr. Bin was just Mr. Bin. An irrigation officer normally, he has no property and rarely conflicts with those around him. In order to find answers to those questions, investigators from the Office of the Investigation Police Agency and the Duke Tho District Police were ordered to return to the crime scene and the victim's family to conduct a re-investigation. From the beginning, a scout was sent to verify the relationships of the victim's family, relatives to the victim's relationships and friends, Nguyen Kin Bin. Another scout was sent to verify the current members, especially the sand miners along the La River Dike, the area where the victim worked in the process, and had contact with the victim's family. And the people around the area got information related to the case that his grandfather and father, Nguyen Kin Bin, a retired government official living in the area, always expressed disapproval. For those who often illegally exploit sand along the La River route through Bui Xa Commune, it is the opinions of these two people that make many sand miners angry. A question arises whether the above contradiction has led to Mr. Bin's death. Realizing this is also valid information, the investigative agency's leaders have directed the scouts to closely monitor mobile movements of sand miners in the area to organize professional measures to screen suspicious objects. After we checked all the objects operating on the La River, mainly those that sucked sand, a few objects emerged. the most precious being an object named Eli Han, born in 1975 with permanent residence in Duc Nan Commune, Duc Tho District, Ha Tin Province. Subject Han had 2 previous convictions for theft of property and intentionally causing injury. On the other hand, by secret sources, the investigation also caught Han's unusual expressions. Since the authorities decided to exhume the victim's body, he was often worried and concerned about developments. Investigation of the police agency also, according to some people in the area, that the subject is aggressive, ready to provoke anyone who touches his rights. On the other hand, people in the area also said that the above Han's barge has weapons, so he can act when an adverse situation comes his way. This information was immediately reported to the investigating agency and ordered to continue to closely monitor the movement of subject Eli Han. The scouts were ordered to continue to look for opportunities, approach the 2 subjects in the same barge of Eli Han. Eli Han is Nguyen Din Na and An Bin. Nguyen Din Na is an employee for Han on the barge, and Phan Thi Bin is living with Eli Han as husband and wife. And by fighting with Nguyen Din, presented the entire content of the incident and from the testimony of Nguyen Din Na, and continued to the Phan Thi Bin, i.e. Eli Han's fiancé, in those processes, by using the following methods: persuasion and encouragement. The Vin presented the entire content of the incident. Eli Han was pushing Bin to go to work. According to the declaration of Nguyen Din Na and Phan Thi Bin, at 9:30 a.m. on November 9, Mr. Nguyen Can Bin boarded the sand mining barge owned by Mr. Tran Nam, permanent residence in Truong Son Commune, Duc Tho District, parked in the area of the Duc Culvert to collect fees through the culvert. On the barge at this time were Eli Han, Nguyen Din Na, and Phan Thi Bin. After collecting the fees, Mr. Nguyen Can Bin and the 3 above and 2 other people named Huang and Tan sat on the barge next to him, drank wine and played cards for money. After the last game between Han and Mr. Bin, an argument broke out. Palm, Eli Han used his right hand to push Mr. Bin, causing Mr. Bin to fall into the river. When he fell into the river, he saw the bottle crying for help. Not only did not help, but he also used the edge to shovel the sand on the barge and hit Mr. Bin's body, causing him to sink completely. Knowing that Mr. Bin was dead, Han let the barge leave Dau Wharf and run towards Tho Tuong Song La. The water traffic police force was ordered to go on the road, check the vehicles or go in and out of the Duc Gia Sewer. A net has been prepared waiting for the subject Eli Han. When Han's ship had just arrived, the water traffic asked him to board the boat for an administrative inspection. Immediately, experienced detectives caught him quickly and safely, and the truth is that nothing can condone his crimes. From a very small suspicion related to the death of Mr. Nguyen Can Bin, after a period of persistent struggle and exploitation, the Ha Tin Province Police Investigation Agency clarified a case that seemed to be sunk in the water. Forget.